Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the 2020 ODOT Technology Conference. I'm here to kick off the first session with Charles Ash. About 9 years ago, we had found out that Charles was going to be our new infrastructure administrator. Not too long after that, we found out that he was a lawyer, and I have to admit that knowledge caused me some concern. I had never worked for a lawyer before, and honestly, up to that point, I don't think I had had any positive interactions with lawyers. But fortunately, not too long after that, I found out that he had also worked as a licensed fireworks exhibitor, and that's a pretty creative profession. Setting up large fireworks displays for public viewing. This alleviated some of my original concerns, although I had never worked for a licensed firework exhibitor either. But after some thought, it occurred to me that there were some important similarities between those two professions. It might not seem so right off the bat, but the thing that struck me as the commonality between those two professions was passion. I've never heard of someone who took the bar just because they needed a job for the summer. I've never heard of anyone risking their safety working with high explosives just because they had nothing better to do. Both of those career paths require I think a great deal of passion, and I think the passion that powers the hard work needed to pass the bar and become a lawyer is the same passion necessary to motivate someone to risk everything to create something awe-inspiring and beautiful like a fireworks display. I became interested to see where Charles's passion would lead the Division of Information Technology at ODOT. In 2018, he was appointed as CIO, and he had a clear vision for where he wanted us to be, not in terms necessarily of specific technologies, but in terms of our approach. His passion drove him to question the status quo, to push institutional boundaries, and ultimately led IT from being more of a technology-oriented organization to being a business-focused organization, and one which has been widely recognized as one of the most innovative government technology organizations in the state. The feedback we've gotten from ODOT at large is that IT is providing better services to the organization than before. But a passionate leader doesn't stop looking for opportunities to improve just because things are better now than they were in the past. That leader looks to the future and begins to question what the business is going to need in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, and starts planning now how we can best lay the foundation to meet those needs when the business ultimately asks us to. And I think that brings us up to the present, or perhaps we're in the future already. Thought-provoking. Charles, fortunately, has come to talk to us today about the future. So with no further delay, I will present to you Charles Ash.
Thank you, Kevin, and welcome to the third annual ODOT conference. The ODOT Tech Conference. We have 32 sessions across the next 2 days for you. This year is a bit different. Rather than seeing you all in person, we're all virtual to the meeting itself. I hope next year the threat of COVID-19 is behind us and we can all get together. After all, part of the underlying reason for the conference itself is for all of us to get to know each other better. I ask that as you go through the conference, I hope that you recognize that each of you have something to contribute to this conference, and I hope that next year you'll consider sharing that with us next year. But for now, let's get started. All right, you should be able to see my slide presentation now. Get ready to participate. You can set yourself up for the questions that we're going to have in a few minutes if you text Ohio DOT 01 to 22333, and that way you'll be ready when we get to those slides. So the topic that I have today is the future is now. And what should we talk about? Well, of course, we have to talk about Tesla. I mean, what? I mean, Charles Ashe talking about a Tesla? That's holy mackerel, unbelievable. No, it's not necessarily. My car can now identify stop signs. It can identify traffic lights. It can stop. It can go based on whether or not the light's green or not. We received new computer hardware this year, and Elon Musk says that level 5 automation is probable by the end of 2020. So what's that mean, level 5 automation? Full self-driving automobiles. So we'll see. You know, he hasn't always delivered every one of his ideas on time, but he usually delivers eventually. So that's really all I have to talk about. That is the future. Are there any questions? Oh, no, this is the tech conference. Okay. All right, here's what I want to talk about. Today's, yesterday's, future. We are not bound by yesterday's predictions and paths for the future, and it's up to us to make the technological future for the department, the state's transportation system, and for the citizens of the state of Ohio. So let's start with where we are today, and you know, where we are and how did we get here. First, let's take a little survey. How long does it take to get over 1,600 ODOT employees working inside our buildings, working from home? Three days, that looks like the consensus. All right. There you go, check the policy. All right. All right, so we'll come back to this. You can continue to answer. All right, next question. So a couple of weeks ago at our all-staff meeting, I asked you what's the best part of work from home, and apparently in this word cloud, if you answer with more than one word, it does not actually keep them together. So I'm going to clear the results that we had. I'm going to clear them, and when you respond, either use one word or use two words, something like that, but connect them with a hyphen, and then we'll get the full picture. Ready? All right, there we go. Excellent. All right, work, commute. I see commute is big, yeah. Productivity, I think we've seen some really good productivity while we've been working from home, so. Better internet, wow. Family time. Sit in underwear. No makeup. All right. Awesome. All right. Thank you. So let's review. Before we look into the future, let's review where we are. So in January, you know, it was like any other January. it was halfway through the fiscal year. We're about to enter the budget cycle. December was full of news about this thing coming to us from China, but it was a future thing, not a now thing. Endpoint computing team was traveling around the state, talking with our customers about what applications they needed to make sure that we were virtualizing those applications in the Citrix environment. All right. February, things were still normal. There was no real conversation going on about COVID-19 nor working from home. Working from home was still a dream that IT had in particular because of the way we work. Most of our work can be performed from anywhere. But the powers that be still wanted us to come to the office to do what we do, and so there we were. In March, right? March started the things changing a little bit. On Wednesday, March 4th, I notified Assistant Director Kurt Slusher that, if we had to go out of the offices, I thought we'd be in a pretty good position to do so. And on Thursday, March 5th, we had our monthly strategic and tactical meetings with the districts, and at the strategic meeting, I asked the team there, what do we think it would take to successfully move from the office to work from home? And we ironed out a lot of the issues that we thought would be in front of us if we had to do that. On Monday, March 9th, things began really happening from a state of Ohio point of view. We started keeping new records, records of a new type. And on Tuesday, March 10th, the governor declared a state of emergency due to COVID-19. Documents began to be assembled for how to work from home. And on Wednesday, March 11th, IT deployed a detailed plan for how to determine if you were qualified to work from home. On Thursday, March 12th, remember that on the 12th, we still had no work from home policy, right? We really weren't allowed to permit people to work from home on March 12th. But things were getting serious, and HR asked us for our input from an IT perspective, what that policy should look like. And so we helped craft parts of that policy that related to technology. And then Friday 13th, the agency adopted a work from home plan, and we placed a line appearance on all all IT worker phones in the districts. Early deployers started to take equipment home. District 4 and District 12 went first, and then that day was so successful in our DuoSec enrollments that Districts 2 and 5 and Central Office were allowed to enroll as well. Over that weekend, network team deployed some additional equipment, right? So that we went from 750 to 20,000 VPN connectivity capability. And the endpoint computing team also increased the environment for Citrix so that we could support we went from 2,200 to 5,000 supportable users. So, and we obtained permission to deploy these DuoSec two-factor accounts. And basically they just said, listen, you do what you need to do, and we'll catch up with you later, but please don't let us hold you up. So we did, we took advantage of that. Monday, March 16th, on Monday, March 16th, that's when it started to really happen, right? The exodus occurs. Service desk was across the state. We're really overrun with questions about things. There were quite a few issues, and on the issues mostly revolved around two-factor authentication, right? But Tuesday, we started to gather more inventory numbers about PCs, thin clients. We unretired laptops. And Wednesday, March 18th, by the end of the day, we had moved more than 1,600 ODOT employees working inside of ODOT buildings to work from their homes. Most people worked through this. They were patient, and we got a lot done. So what did we really accomplish? Right? We moved people out of the office, right? We deployed teams in April, and teleconferencing became much more successful. We demonstrated that a statewide centralized support number could work. We started delivering weekly messages to our customers, helping them stay security focused, and that our technology stack works. During this time, it cannot be overstated the level of teamwork that IT exhibited during this time. I mean, we had people who were creating tutorial videos that had never done the things that they were creating the videos for. The project management office was central to that, right? They created several videos about how to use VPN, how to register DuoSec, and several other things. And these people had never, I don't think they had all created videos before, and I don't think all of them had used the technology that we were asking them to create tutorials about. So it was an outstanding effort by them and really our whole team. It was, for a few days in 2020, the focus was not so much on COVID-19, but on IT, right? Could we successfully deliver a way for ODOT to continue operations from home? The spotlight was directly focused on us. And in the grand scheme of things, we did deliver. And I thank each and every one of you for doing your part to make that transition a success, and for continuing that high level of support that we put out there. In addition, we ended up helping ODJFS deploy volunteers. More than 1,000 volunteers were able to access our Citrix environment with ODJFS applications to further help them with their call volume. So, are we at Nirvana now, right? Are we in the future state? Look at what we did. It was awesome. It was actually kind of amazing. And that's what we got from most of the people that I spoke with in March. It was not just that we got it done, but holy mackerel, it seemed almost effortless. So we'll talk about that in a second. But did we just jump over years of questions, policy making, and research? I submit to you that it would have taken years and years to get to the point of having people work from home prior to COVID-19. It just wasn't a state of Ohio thing. We would have gone about it by permitting a select group of people to test working from home. We would have had to debate the right equipment that should be deployed to the home. We would have had to debate the effectiveness of people having to use their own home computers to work from home, or how would we effectively measure the performance of anyone working from home, and how would we effectively manage people who work from home? So, did we go from A to Z in 3 days? I think we might have gone from step A to step Q, right? We did demonstrate a lot of things that are working and will work in a work from home kind of organization. But I don't think we avoided the debates entirely. I think we still need to answer a few questions like, will state agencies become bring your own device supporters like the private sector, where they provide $1,500 every 3 years to their employees to buy a computer? Will we need a full-blown laptop or computer, or will we use other technology to do what we do? Do most of us ever need to print again? I can tell you right now that we are over capacity on our print capacity. Our printing has dropped off so far that we have 4 times more printers than we need to support the organization. So what happens to space in our offices? Do we set up hotel cubing and meeting areas and that's it? Will we give the same equipment to everyone? Because I can see different people wanting to use different computers, laptops, Mac, iPad. Should we care what they have if they can do their job effectively with whatever they want? And will they be happier if they can choose what to use, as long as we make sure it works on our end? So I think we have big questions when it comes to exactly what equipment people will ultimately end up with at home. And it could be BYOD, thin clients, Chromebooks, could be a hybrid model, but we have a lot of questions to answer. So back to our question. How long does it take to get over 1,600 employees working inside our buildings working from home? 6 years. 6 years and 3 days, to be exact. It was actually a long journey, and we knew it would be, right? we planned an architecture that could support any application on any device on any network. That was the concept, right? That was the concept. But let's take a look at how others have, I say it, that was the concept. That was the concept we had 6 years ago. So let's look at some other people who have predicted the future, and let's see how successful they were. Does anybody remember this movie, Running Man? Running Man was set in 2019. It was actually written in 1982, but it was set in 2019. And it was pretty dismal life, right? I mean, they were killing people on television. That was a pretty bad future. What about this one? Anybody recognize this one? This is Blade Runner. Blade Runner was set also in 2019. It was written in 1968. Did you ever notice that even though they had some pretty cool things, right? They had cars that flew and things of that nature, but they were actually flying them. That is, they had a hand on the joystick and they were flying them. But look at the environment that they lived in. I honestly don't remember a scene that was outside in Blade Runner where it wasn't raining, so their environment was messed up. Androids had reached a whole new level, but we don't see that level in 2020. We don't see that. What about Johnny Mnemonic, right? Johnny Mnemonic, still pretty bleak. It was set in 2021, although it was written in 1981. They had some pretty cool predictions. One of them was that you could do memory implants. And if you remember in that movie, the problem was that he was getting ready to try to put 320 gigs of data in his memory implant that couldn't hold 320 gigs of data, so they compressed it. Well, 320 gigs doesn't seem like very much, but the thing that they might have gotten right is if you look in the right-hand corner there, it looks, that's their interpretation of what 3D equipment would look like. And that is pretty daggone close to what 3D equipment looks like right now, or virtual reality type equipment. It's actually not bad. And then there's this one, all right? Soylent Green. I don't know how many of you know about this movie. I recommend you see it, just if for nothing else. Charlton Heston's in it, and it's a classic. But the year that it takes place is 2022. It was written in 1966, and the idea was that there was such a massive population growth that we were going to have problems feeding the world. And so they had this product called Soylent Green, and yes, that is a garbage truck. And yes, it is taking humans and putting them in the back of a garbage truck for crowd control and population control. So that's a pretty daggone dismal look at the future. So all of these predicted futures had a dismal outlook, and the use of technology didn't really particularly help them out of it. And in fact, in Johnny Mnemonic, it was the technology that was causing part of the problems, right? In that one, the theme was there was this disease called NAS, nerve attenuation syndrome, that was causing people to not be able to function correctly. But so these predictions were from 1966 to 1982, so about 38 to 54 years ago. But there is another prediction that happened in 1962 in the entertainment industry that is pretty close on some things.
Meet George Jetson. His boy Elroy. Daughter Judy. Jane, his wife.
All right, so the Jetsons set in 2062. What did they get right? Big screen televisions, even curved screens, flat panels. Remember, this was 1962. Most people watching were doing so on small black and white televisions. They were not flat panels. Telemedicine, look down in the lower left. Telemedicine. Elroy is having a doctor's appointment using telemedicine. Moving sidewalks. They do exist now largely in airports, but other places as well. And in this future, there are blue skies. It's a happy future, and they're using technology for the good of humankind. And oh, by the way, George Jetson's work week, it's 2 days a week for 1 hour a week. I don't know if by 2062 that's going to be the case, but that's what automation will do for you. So just an interesting thing. What didn't they get right? I think it says flight is a normal mode of transportation for the Jetsons. I don't know if that'll be true in 2062, but I suspect it'll have the possibility of being true. Will we have Hyperloop or Hypertubes, where we can move people floor to floor or across the nation? Maybe. Hyperloop is still in progress. And will we be able to synthesize food? I don't think we'll be able to get to food synthesis on a molecular level, but we certainly won't be using punch cards to do it. But I think that's one of the things that we won't have quite right by 2062. So, but we did predict this one, right? Today, we're living in the future that we planned for 6 years ago. So we were able to come up with a solution that would be effective when we needed it to be effective, right? We put together this architecture of the workspace aggregation, and we had to change our thinking in order to do it. For one thing, when we started down this pathway, everything was tied to the computer, not the user, right? We were installing software. That software was dedicated to the machine, not to the user. And so that was one of the ways that we had to change our thinking in order for this architecture to be effective. The other thing we did is that we didn't tie the architecture to a specific brand of technology. What we did is we made a functional architecture. And you can see from this particular slide that we have interface, we have infrastructure, we have things like two-factor authentication or application deployment, specialized applications, analytics, service management, but we didn't name any product, right? We didn't name Active Directory, we did not name ServiceNow, we did not name Citrix, and in fact, the first incarnation of the workspace aggregation did not use Citrix, it used VDI. And we thought that we would get better capabilities if we shifted that. And so we lifted that functional capability out and we dropped in Citrix, right? And that it made a difference. So we had to change our way of thinking. And like I said, not all of the changes were popular at the time, but this took us a while to get to this point. So the point is that we have to always be looking to the future to see how we'll best be able to meet the needs of the customers, right? But we're not bound by how others have viewed the future. We get to set that in motion ourselves. We're not even bound by the decisions that we made in the past, right? We have an opportunity to change our minds and move ahead if it's in our best interest to do so. So right now, this is the future from 6 years ago. We laid a foundation, we built building blocks, we put things in place, we asked questions, we worked really hard on a future, a place where all DOT employees could be highly mobile, and that future is now. Are we done? Not at all. Every day is a new starting line, right? If there was any genius in what we did with the workspace aggregation, it was that we listened to what the business said they would need. They were asking us at the time to help them become more and more mobile. And that's what we did. This architecture is intended for us to be mobile, the Department of Transportation to be mobile. So right now, what our divisions of traffic and Drive Ohio are telling us is that we need to be able to process more data faster. So in addition to that, we're in the middle of upgrading or replacing nearly every major software system that we have here at the Department of Transportation. So when we have a lot of questions about what work from home and the technology that we'll use in works from home going forward, right, post COVID-19. Will we only issue Chromebooks and use Citrix, or will we only use laptops going forward and no PCs? How about this? Will we only issue mobile phones and Raspberry Pis and use the technology of that kind for use and work from home? Because you can get a Raspberry Pi pretty inexpensively that'll drive 2 monitors, a mouse and a keyboard, and you can use Citrix on a mobile phone and push it to those monitors. Is that a viable alternative for the Department of Transportation? It certainly solves the internet connectivity issue from a broad perspective. Now, not every location has great wireless service, but it's a possible alternative to what's going on with work from home. So let's take a look at the basics. So the Department of Transportation's mission statement is to provide a safe and easy movement of goods, to provide a safe and easy movement of people and goods from place to place. We will improve safety, take care of what we have, make our system work better, and enhance capacity. Now, as I read this, how many of you thought, yeah, and thought that this mission statement meant that we would build and maintain roads, and maybe it didn't apply to you. It only applies to HTs and those guys out on the roadway. No. It does mean that we will build and maintain roads, but it's a bit more than that, isn't it? The key word, I think, is the word system. And what is a system? According to Webster, a system is a set of things working together as parts of a mechanism or an interconnecting network. It's a set of principles or procedures according to which something is done, an organized scheme or method. Technology is a part of the ODOT system. It's an ever increasingly important part. This means that you are an ever increasingly important part of ODOT in carrying out its mission. So the things we're doing now will help set the table for a world more like the Jetsons than the world of Blade Runner, right? Maybe we won't have folding vehicles, but flying vehicles, they're being tested now. And telecommunications, the way they had them in the Jetsons, we have them that way now when we do that, video conferencing. Automations, those are happening now, perhaps not at the molecular level for food creation, but look at the things that the Jetsons do in terms of social relationships. They're similar to today. And Fred Jetson and UAS are going to help us get to the flying vehicle part. So the services and support we provide to DOT are helping the entire enterprise make decisions. They give us historical context and they give us present information, right? But they are not fast enough for the amounts of data that we will have in the future. So I didn't put a responsive question to this, but how many internet connected cars are on the roads today? Which one of these answers do you think it is? Less than 1 million, 1 to 2, 5 million, 25 million, more than 25 million? Well, it's actually more than 1.2 billion worldwide. And shipments are expected to reach 76.1 million internet connected vehicles by the end of 2023, which is 3 years away. Now, these cars will be capable of delivering vast amounts of information about what is going on along our roadways. And as you'll see, it is also going to change the way we think about how to deploy technology and the elimination of silos of information the way we have them now. If it can be made to relate or correlate in some way, we should take advantage of that correlation to help us make better decisions. So let's do some math, right? The number of Ohio registered vehicles is 13 million, right? Roughly 13 million. And we're gonna say that 10% of those cars right now are internet connected. Now, they've been making internet connected cars for years. So we're gonna just say 10%. We're gonna say that the number of basic safety messages delivered from these cars is 10 per second. which is about 600 per minute. All right, so the number of pieces of information that we're going to need to process in our systems just from 10% of the cars is, so 10% of the registered vehicles times 10 messages per second, 13 million messages per second, 797 million per minute, 47 trillion, almost 48 trillion per hour, right? So there's the math. That is 1 quadrillion messages per day, right? And that's with 10% internet connected vehicles. You know, we'll have to be able to process those messages. And this doesn't include any other sources of data like weather, traffic counts, speed data, although much of that data will be available to us from the cars themselves. 1 quadrillion messages per day. This is what the data is, right? It's, you know, are the brakes being applied? What's the status of anti-lock brakes? Are the wipers on? Is it raining? What's the temperature outside? You know, and each one of these messages is going to have a timestamp along with location information, speed, and heading, right? So you can see that this information will decay over time. For example, if we have 5 to 10 cars hard braking in the same geographic area, it won't help us much if we process that information 20 minutes after they all hard brake. We need to know now as the data is being generated, right? So name a system that we have here at the state or a collection of systems that as a system can process this amount of information in a day. We must build the future today. We have to get into a position to leverage cloud technologies the way cloud is supposed to work. Infinite numbers of connections to the cloud, infinite numbers of connections from the cloud securely. Cloud applications only have value when architected for cloud applications. Otherwise, you're just architecting the same stack we have today. It sounds different, but the limitations are the same. So remember last year, I challenged you to take a hike to see if you could change your perspective. We have to change your thinking. The technologies we use today will not be enough to process quadrillions of transactions per day. The event streaming platform is intended to give us the ability to make real-time decisions about all kinds of things going on with the enterprise. And we're starting with traffic management, but remember, much of the data that we produce becomes less and less valuable as time passes. We're generating more and more of that data every day, and soon every vehicle on the road, every mobile phone, every IoT device that transmits location will become a potential source of data to the Department of Transportation. That data is most relevant as it's generated and collected. Yes, we'll do some analysis after the fact, but when we want to know how our traffic is moving, we don't want to know about it from an hour ago. We want to know now. When we want to reroute traffic around a problem, we don't want to know the remaining capacity of the system an hour ago. We want to know what it is now. We also want to use analytics to guess what it will be in an hour from now. So to use artificial intelligence and machine learning, those kinds of things. But that'll also be based on the now data. So the future is now. What do you think of when I say the word data center? You think of this as a data center? Or maybe this is a data center? Or maybe this is the SOC, right? Is that what you think of when I use the word data center? Well, what if a data center looks like this? Or this? What if I tell you that within minutes we can create a secure, scalable, and redundant data center with just a few commands? Minutes. We can tell it to crank up every morning, and we can tell it to shut down every night or weekend or whatever. What if I tell you that it can instantiate a 3-location geographically dispersed redundancy and can fail over automatically, scale automatically, and meet the need of the business rules set out for it and save us money? Well, that stuff's true. What is a data center to us anyway? What is it really? What is Citrix to us? Or workspace aggregation, Docker? What is low code or no code programming to us? infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service. What is the ESP really? And have you ever heard of Google's BigQuery? Have you ever heard of infrastructure as code? What if we don't have to worry about allocating processors, memory, storage to any application or database? What if it's all done automatically for us? I think we had 36 cores, 36 processors dedicated to Buckeye traffic, right? Why? Because we never knew when there was going to be a bad day on Ohio's roads. And what we did know is that if we allocated 36 processors, that on a heavy snow day, a terrible snow day, that would satisfy the demand, right? But those days can happen, right? When a bridge catches fire, we have those days. We never knew when, and so but it doesn't scale automatically. Those days are gone if we change our mindset and our thinking. If you're in software development and you have not checked out how Docker containers can help you every day, you are missing out. If you don't know what micro apps are in the Citrix environment, you are missing out on the opportunity to potentially bridge applications together without as much code. These things, all of them, are tools for IT to help our customers reach their goals. And I stress the fact that these are tools for IT. They're not as much directly for our customers. You know, you might think the ESP is for traffic management or Drive Ohio, but it's not. It's really for us so that we can help Drive Ohio and traffic management meet their goals. But really, these are tools that you can utilize in your thinking now to help solve problems. So the future is now. We have to get these technologies in our way of thinking before we can ever implement things using them. We can't really wait any longer. Things like microservices, low code, no code solutions, data streams have to be a way of thinking now. But we're moving into a new paradigm, right? Right now, you probably have a really good idea of how the things that you use work. But what I'm telling you is that I don't think it'll be necessary for you to understand how something works, how these tools work, but understand that they do work, right? The platform is going to do things. You won't have to know where the data came from. You only have to know that the data is there, it's reliable, and how to access it. It's kind of like driving a car. You don't have to understand how the engine of a car works. You just need to learn how to drive. So the only possible way that we can execute quadrillions of messages per day is to change our thinking. We have to understand data streams, how they're different from databases but complementary to them. We have to understand the advantages in terms of scalability of containers. We have to understand the value of microservices architecture, right? So how can you help us save lives through the use of technology here at ODOT? Make the time to learn what these tools do and how you can leverage them. We have to increase our velocity on change. Infrastructure, data and data correlation, software development, application scalability, and on and on. We bring these tools in for you to use. And what I want to do is I want to tell you that I'm introducing now the start of a new program to foster innovation here at ODOT. And while I can only speak to the IT division as to participation, the program is open to all of ODOT, right? What I want to tell you is that we're going to have technology innovation awards. We're going to have them and offer and award them at this tech conference on an annual basis from here going forward. In the coming weeks, we'll send out information about how you can register your idea for consideration, and the IT managers will determine if the project is accepted, and if so, permit you the time to work on the project. We'll have to make time for it. There'll be 2 awards given at next year's tech conference, Innovator of the Year and Team Innovators of the Year. And the idea is to focus on new technologies and new approaches. All right, so yesterday's future is now today. We've done some really great things and we achieved some really big goals. We're not bound by the doomsday predictions of the past, nor really any particular direction with technology that we have chosen in the past. Today, we're planning and implementing the future of tomorrow, and each and every one of you is necessary for us to achieve the goals, right? So make the time to get out of your comfort zone and learn some new technologies. We need each and every one of you to take this step if we are going to be successful at being able to process a quadrillion messages by a system or a collection of systems in a day. So I don't think we have time for questions. I thank you for listening to me. I hope that you get something out of this. Over the next 2 days, you'll have opportunities to see and learn about various technologies that ODOT has or is implementing. Things like you can learn from Josh Tiemann about the success of the new Ohio hauling permit system, or the impact of COVID-19 on traffic from Sandy Maple, Stephanie Murray, and Stephen Hale. You can learn about the Buckeye Traffic Replacement System, the ATMS, being implemented now from John McAdam and Adam Kiefer, or air mobility systems from Fred Judson, and on, you know, and we've got some really great keynote speakers lined up, like Patrick Smith, who'll give us an update on Drive Ohio and all they're doing, the endpoint computing team and how everything came together just in time for COVID-19. This afternoon, we'll have futurist Thornton May, who's going to look at the future of you. And we will close it out tomorrow with our own director, Marchbanks, and what he sees in the future of ODOT. So just a great agenda for the whole conference. I hope you have a great time with this conference and learn some new things. And as you leave the meeting, feel free to give us your thoughts on the future of IT at ODOT. And I would recommend the same thing. If you're going to put information out there, I would connect words together with some kind of connector. But I thank you very much. I appreciate your attention today, and I hope you have a great conference. Thank you.